What? Did we just become best friends?
Yup.
Do you want to go do karate in the garage?
Yup.
Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Go to Bull fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, I have a sickness, man. I have a sickness deep in my soul, and it's called Chargers fever. Every single day I'm looking for just a little bit of something to scratch that itch for the Chargers, and this was a heck of a week to scratch that itch, baby. OTAs kicked off on Monday, in which the Chargers veterans met with the rookies for the first time in order to get some business done on the field and create some chemistry between the squad. You know what's kind of cool, man? It's cool going into the offseason for the NFL draft, having a guy that you're excited for, right? It's even more exciting when you hit on that guy via lad McConkey, and it's even more exciting when it finally gets to the point where you see him with your star quarterback and Justin Herbert, and they start creating some chemistry, baby. Today's video, the dawn of the planet of the McConkey Kong. I'm actually going to turn this off here for just a second so you guys can see the full glory of today's thumbnail. I know, it's kind of ridiculous. I'm excited to see the new Planet of the Apes movie, by the way. We'll see how that goes down. Either way, McConkey, man, he's had an awesome kickoff to OTAs, an awesome first impression with the team and his quarterback. The whole, man, guys, look at my allergies, dude. It's allergy season, guys, I promise you. Nothing fishy going on over here. Don't let that distract you from the fact that McConkey off to a very good start. Very excited to share with you guys the details of OTAs, what it means for the team, and a lot of the narratives that are beginning with the Chargers this season. Kind of makes me wish we had something like, all or nothing or all in with the Chargers. But, it's cool to kind of see these even when reading about them after the fact, because there's a lot going down in the first Jim Harbaugh season of the Chargers in 2024. Before we do kick off, shout out to the sponsor, everybody, Underdog Fantasy. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $250. It's a great way to support the channel and have fun along the way. Newcomers, check out the Anthony Edwards special for this week. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. Small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification. Helps me out a lot. Let's get into this allergy-infested video. Lights, camera, action. Your Chargers OTAs day one kickoff with a bang. Should we call this the dawn of the McConkey Kong, right? I like it. I don't know. Not everybody's favorite. We'll have to wait and see what sticks, right? There's a lot of different nicknames out there. Actually, I wasn't planning on showing this, but let's go ahead and show it anyway. There's a lot of different nicknames floating on out there, right? Bad Lad, Lightning Lad, McConkey Kong.
Come on,
this
Laddie.
is a little clip.
How about Laddie? Sounds like here, boy. Come on, Laddie.
Come on, Laddie.
Laddie.
Come on, Laddie. You guys let me know what your favorite nickname is for Lad McConkey. But at this point, man, lots of excitement revolving around this player, a lot of excitement revolving around the offseason. And the first thing I kind of want to talk to you guys about with the Chargers OTAs was attendance, man. It was awesome. It was strong. The Chargers had a lot of guys in there that in years past you wouldn't see this early in the offseason. I know that there was guys like Bud Dupree who didn't make it, but he says he's going to be coming in pretty soon. Says it's the earliest that he's been to training, or I should say to any offseason program since his rookie season. Then you see a lot of veteran leaders out there like Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, who honestly, their presence is going to make a very big deal, right? It's a pretty cool thing when you get all of these veteran guys in there running the same routine and going through the same motions as some of the newer guys. It instills a lot of leadership and a lot of motivation throughout the roster, and it's something that I feel like, yes, we have seen in some seasons, but for the most part, there's a new energy and respect for the game with Jim Harbaugh now at the helm for the LA Chargers. To recap, everybody was there, man. I think everybody but 2 players showed up for OTAs on Monday, and that was Gus Bus, I think, was absent, and of course Bud Dupree, who I think is still getting stuff squared away in his transition to Los Angeles. Some cool stuff out there. And then Bud, I do think he's going to be coming soon. He did mention in a recent interview, though, that we finally got confirmation as to why he chose the Los Angeles Chargers instead of his previous other teams, which I think were in contact with him, the Steelers and Atlanta Falcons. It was Jim Harbaugh and the gang letting them know that everybody's getting after the quarterback this season, baby. We got a whole bunch of big names out here. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Thule, Morgan Fox. There's some talk that everybody's going to be involved in some way, shape, or form in getting after the QB. You throw Bud Dupree into that mix, it gets really exciting to think about what is going to happen in the season. I think this may be one of the most slept-on aspects of the Chargers team going into this year. There's a lot of excitement about, Jim Harbaugh and the transitioning of offense, and we got McConkey and Herbert and, everybody coming in on the offense. The defense, which Jesse Minter has a lot of, optimism throughout the fans for, maybe slept on throughout the league a little bit in terms of what they offer in their pass rush. This is a roster of dudes, man. This is a list of guys that's going to get after Patrick Mahomes, and it's a lot of them, which is something that was exciting to hear about in terms of, okay, we're going to see a good, healthy rotation. There's going to be a healthy, pass rush every single down due to the guys that we have behind our starters. But it feels like everyone's going to be more involved than we initially thought on every down. So that's really exciting to think about. And I think it does speak to what the Chargers' strengths could be in 2024 on their defense, because I think that pass rush is going to be one of the more stupid to try and contain in the season. One thing I also wanted to point out that I think a lot of Chargers fans are starting to embrace in terms of what we got, right? Like, we went all in this offseason as a fan base, hoping and pounded the table for Jim Harbaugh to step onto the field for the Chargers' new head coaching position. And honestly, it's something that's already starting to pay off. We knew in the offseason that there are things going on that were helping the team out in terms of, player acquisition, in terms of the draft, in terms of inside of rookie players and where they're projected to go and their strengths on the team. But honestly, it's this phase that gets me even more excited. The phase in which Jim Harbaugh can get his hands on the players, get his hands on the staff, get his hands on everybody in the facility, and start building the foundation of culture, because it feels like it's already started to become relevant to us as spectators, if that makes sense. It's already starting to bubble to the surface, right? Tuck your shirt in. Turn that music off. Let's have some respect for the game of football and get the freak to work. I don't know what the liberties are throughout the league. I understand that it's still a game. We want to have fun with it. But ultimately, Jim Harbaugh has a unique way of doing things. It does feel like a championship boot camp, something that I tweeted a couple of days ago. It feels really, really fine-tuned. And that's something that Jim Harbaugh has brought to his teams, from where team or players are placed in the locker room, what the equipment looks like in the weight room, all the way to what your shirt looks like and what your uniform looks like on the field. He's got an eye for detail from top to bottom, and it's something that I think really helps shape young people. I gotta say, I'm not the oldest guy in the club, but I'm also, definitely not a youngster anymore. And I do have that perspective because honestly, when I came out of high school and even out of college, I was still kind of a little crap. I still hadn't quite developed as a person yet. And as much as people think, there's a disconnect between college football and the pros, it's still young men that we're talking about here, right? And shaping these guys in terms of their respect for the game and their character, and I think is just as important as shaping them as football players, right? And it feels like something that's been very highlighted in the Jim Harbaugh culture in every single place that he's gone. And it's a still very, important time in a young man's life where you can introduce concepts and stuff like that, and they'll stick. Because ultimately, when it comes down to it, tucking your shirt in, right? Turning off the music and focusing in on the moment, the little details in practice, in training, and all that kind of stuff, it really paints a picture for a person in terms of, hey, if he takes my shirt this seriously, if he takes, wiping down the equipment this seriously and presenting yourself, in such a respectful way so seriously, how seriously is he going to take, my effort out on the practice field? How serious is he going to take, me understanding the playbook and me understanding these concepts, and how seriously he's going to take the execution? If he takes so seriously the little things, how serious do you think he takes the big things? It creates this respect for everything that you do for this mentor. And I've had a lot of mentors. Again, guys, this is kind of tall talk. I get it. We got real talk with the director, but how many of you had a mentor in your life that you looked up to this way? right? That expected more out of you, that expected more from you, from the littlest things to the biggest things. It really does shape good character, good work ethic, good effort, right? Especially at this age, especially, in your teen years going into your adulthood. Like, it's something that's very, very important. And I think on a football team, it's some of the more obvious environments that you're going to see that translate to a person's character. And that's why I love this Jim Harbaugh way, man. Again, we crap on Brandon Staley a lot. I get it. But I think it's also a good example of what might even be the norm in the league, right? Let's have music blaring. These are guys out here that made a lot of money. They're flashing around their talent and their fame. And there's so much that goes into the personality of a person that comes into that kind of, success, that bringing him back down to earth can sometimes be a little bit challenging. Jim Harbaugh has a great way of doing that. I love that, because everybody at some point gets too big for their britches, and having somebody to say, hey man, you put your pants on left for one leg at a time like everybody else, right? It helps bring you back down to, okay, let's get to work. Let's focus in. Let's become the best version of what we can be right now. And I like that. I like that a lot. So talk with director. Okay, didn't mean to go this long into that segment, but I love the culture that he's building and how obvious it is to me as a spectator watching it unfold. I can't imagine what it's like being in that with the players and feeling that camaraderie and respect for football that may have been absent for so many years now. Okay, it's good for him. Now the meat and potatoes of this video, man. McConkey! Lad McConkey. I'm so excited, dude. Like I said at the top of the video, this was my dude. I brag about it all the time. I'm going to brag about it even more, baby. This was director's pick in the NFL draft. I didn't know if we were going to get him. I was so convinced that we were going Malik Neighbors. Definitely wrong there, but also very glad to be wrong there. Getting Joe Alt with Lad McConkey, your dude at wide receiver. Like, I think we got a pretty good deal there. And finally, to see this translate in a way that is so obvious to me to success is also very illuminating, right? It's very exciting. It puts a fire under my butt as a fan. Like, hey, dude, cool things are coming, man. Some good things are coming, and he wears number 15 right now. It's starting to surface. Okay, the excitement, the investment, it's starting to surface here. The chemistry is starting to surface, I would actually say. That's probably the biggest thing that gets me excited. Lad McConkey, Justin Herbert, these guys have arrived. The combo has already started to trickle into the excitement of Chargers fans around the world, because it's evident. It's evident that these guys are buddy all of a sudden. I don't know, man. You see a couple of dudes yuck it up once in a while, and I'm completely this way. If you guys have met me at games or have met me in person, or we did a couple of events in Los Angeles, like if you've met me in person, you know I'm kind of a goofball, okay? But it's really evident when I'm yucking it up with people, right? When it's really evident, I'm having a good time, we're elbowing each other, we're having it feels that way with Justin Herbert and Lad McConkey. These dudes, they just clicked, right? And when you click with somebody in a work environment or in football on a team, I think good things happen, baby. Trust, I think, is the biggest underlying factor of the whole thing that is built pretty quickly when you have a repertoire with someone like that. And Lad McConkey is not just doing that in his character, which seems really fun. He seems like a fun dude, very optimistic. He's got that Peter Parker kind of vibe, right? Very humble, funny, but he's also very skilled in what he does. And that's the second part of this. He's also earning the respect and trust of Justin Herbert with his performance, right? Very first thing off the bat, one thing, if you had to tack one negative thing on Lad McConkey coming into the draft, maybe a little bit of dinged up an injury, right? We weren't quite sure if he was going to be 100% coming into the season. I think, again, knock on wood, I do that for everything. Right now, at least, it feels like he's at full speed, top speed, right? He's back at 100%. He looks awesome. I think Justin Herbert is getting his first, taste of what it feels like to have a player that gets open in the way he does with the speed that he offers. I would be excited if I was Justin Herbert, man. I'm excited as a Madden player. I'm excited for Madden 25 because we're going to have a guy maybe above 92 speed on the roster that I get to throw to as a video game enthusiast. I can't imagine what Justin Herbert's thinking. Like, man, this guy can move. He's getting open like Keenan. He's flying down the field like Darius Davis. This is awesome. This is great. McConkey and Herbert, they were lightning on the field together. These dudes were very much so in sync. If you guys are looking for director, we want to know more about just the speculation and your hype, what actually happened in OTAs was McConkey was out there just torching everybody, right? He beat the other rookie, Interim Still, a couple of times. I know he beat Taylor, Jasir Taylor. I know it was slant routes that he beat both of those guys on because he was just too fast, man. When it comes to separation, yeah, he's good. When it comes to the raw speed, holy crap. On a slant route, beat both of them. They connected for big plays on several occasions. And I think that the biggest element that was very obvious to me, at least, and to the players, I have to imagine, was the speed. I think the speed is something fresh and new and something we haven't seen on the team in a long time that really, really brings a fresh, skill set to the table that's easy to get excited about. It's obvious. It's obvious. And to me, it brings that element of excitement for Justin Herbert, especially because, yes, I say this all the time. Justin Herbert, since coming into the NFL, he's had a little bit of a crutch. He really, really has. His name was Keenan Allen. Dude was getting open every single time, every single, third down that we were looking for help. It was Slayer, right? And Justin Herbert created a trust in Slayer and a foundation with him that resulted in a lot of conversions, a lot of success. And with that leaving this offseason, it felt very, scary for Chargers fans. What's going to happen now? Well, it feels like, and again, no disrespect to Slayer, one of the best to ever play, maybe the best to ever play for the Chargers at wide receiver in a long time. He's absolutely, deserving of all respect as Chargers fans. But this guy, man, he brings a lot of the same stuff in terms of availability, getting open. But you throw in that extra element of speed, I think we're entering, level 2 territory, right? Like Justin Herbert's been this version of himself. Now you give him some speed. We're unlocking not just, okay, yeah, we got the Keenan Allen element still on the roster, but now we can hit lad deep. Now we got this element a lot like Justin Herbert had in his rookie season with Guyton and Johnson. Now we got a guy that can threaten deep. And if he can threaten deep while also getting open, it even adds more to the danger of a defense having to contain a Justin Herbert. So I like it, man. Lad McConkey, his time has come. I know it's OTAs and we're overreacting to crap throughout this entire video. I understand that. But it's hard to watch, even on the highlights, what went down, how efficient they look together, how open Lad McConkey is getting, how fast that he looks, and not get excited about, okay, what's this going to look like when they put pads on? What is it going to look like on game day? We're starting to see previews of that today, and it's all very good previews, Now, to speak of the devil, McConkey, I would say, probably the star of OTA's day one. I would say that him and Justin Herbert and that whole repertoire are definitely the highlight of that practice or of that day. But Justin Herbert certainly was on fire, even outside of McConkey, right? He completed his first 11 straight passes. He was hitting everyone, finding success with a lot of the brand new additions. DJ Chark was catching passes. Josh Palmer was looking really good. I know Darius Davis had a really nice deep ball from Justin Herbert. There's a lot of cool stuff happening with Herbert. And it kind of tells me one thing. The Chargers are still here to play the pass, right? We're not just going to be a running football team. As a matter of fact, forgive me, I forget the name, a reporter talking about her experience at Chargers OTAs day one. And she noted there was a heck of a lot of passing going on. There's more passing than there was running going on, which is really interesting. Now, you might, attribute that to a little bit of the Gus Edwards absence. But we still had J.K. Dobbins, who was out there looking pretty good, mind you. Actually, J.K. Dobbins was looking pretty healthy, which is a good sign. We had Vidal in there. Vidal. We're going to get used to that. Vidal in there. So we had opportunities to run as much as we wanted to, but the Chargers still very much so passing the football, which is a very good thing to see when you've got Justin Herbert at quarterback. You're not wasting that talent. You're just using it in a slightly different way. All right. And the fact that he was hitting McConkey with such, grace and speed and the connection there being exciting, he has been spreading it out. He has been finding success, and he has been finding a little bit of trust in other guys that maybe was shaken. Most notably Quentin Johnston. We'll talk more about him separately a little bit later, but we're going to throw the football. And Justin Herbert, he looks as good as ever, and it's something that, us as Chargers fans need to realize is still a strength of this team. It sucks that we lost Keenan. It sucks that we lost Mike. but we still have Justin freaking Herbert. He's going to get to work, baby. Now, speaking of OTAs and some of the things that we were all looking for, I think offensive line was a big one for us, right? What's going to happen with Joe Alt entering the picture, with Jim Harbaugh getting his hands on the team? He's one of those, offensive line whisperers. I would say for the most part, the offensive line looked pretty similar, but with a couple of twists here and there, right? Early, what you're expected to see, especially with the rookies, is them work their way into a role, especially Joe Alt, who needs to transition from left tackle to right tackle. So at very first, we did see a lot of the same. We saw Rashawn, we saw Zion, we got Bradley Bozeman now at center, we saw Sawyer and Trey Pipkins at right tackle. But as the evening went on, we did see Joe Alt enter in at right tackle. And you know what they ended up doing? They ended up pushing Trey Pipkins to guard, which is something a lot of us have been speculating about. And we're going to see this Madden, assembly of offensive linemen. I think we are, and I think we saw a couple of previews of that. And it does make it feel like Pipkins and Sawyer are going to be competing for right guard and swing tackle. We did see some looks where Sawyer was placed at right tackle, which is not a bad thing to do. Remember when Rashawn Slater went down? Remember who stepped in at left tackle and had a fantastic season? It was Jamari Sawyer. I am very interested to see what he looks like on the outside, on the opposite side, as a swing guy. And ultimately, I think what you're doing is shaping two players to play two positions and add some nice premium depth that's nice and versatile if you're Jim Harbaugh. Let's see both these guys at tackle. Let's see both these guys at guard. I remember seeing stuff like this when watching All or Nothing with the Michigan Wolverines in 2017. Jim Harbaugh was grabbing dudes off the line and throwing them into drills as a center. Right? Let's see how this guy snaps. Let's get him. He's got potential in his, in his blocking from the interior. I want to see what he looks like, snapping the football. And these experiments lead to versatility, and versatility leads to more premium depth, in my opinion. If Sawyer looks solid at right tackle, then we have a couple options, in terms of depth out there. If Pipkins looks solid at guard, we have a couple options out there at guard. Like it's really nice to see that kind of attention to detail being paid and these opportunities to see these guys out on the field. I like it a lot. We also saw Joe Alt square off with the second team at right tackle as well. So we saw a lot of him at right tackle. And honestly, he looked nice. He looked awesome. He looked great. And we saw a couple of different competitions out there that get me excited. The next slide is gonna get us there. The depth is looking good. But Joe Alt, man, one of the things that I'm hoping to see this clip, right? You guys remember that season with Khalil Mack and Rashawn Slater? Those guys squared off in camp. We got some awesome footage. It was literally just like two lions in a cage just going at it, man. Like you didn't know which one was gonna take the other one down. It was awesome. It was a battle, right? I want to see footage of this, dude. Joey Bosa versus Joe Alt. Like, come on, man. Let's see the highlights from the social media team, dude. I gotta see this. This segment called Iron Sharpens Iron. We say this segment every single season. It's because it's something that's pretty common throughout the NFL. But honestly, it's not as common as I thought in the way that they do it. In one of the articles posted by The Athletic, they mentioned that the Chargers are going back to 11-on-11 drills more frequently that we haven't seen in a couple of seasons. It seems it was it 6-on-6 last season with Brandon Staley. Those 11-on-11 drills are back, but it's what they're facing off against that gets me excited in terms of how they're trying to get everybody nice and sharp and ready. The first team versus the second team is something you do see a lot, but in these 11-on-11 drills, it feels pretty nice to watch, right? What that means is basically the first team offense is going to square off against the second team defense. That's going to force the second team defense to step it up, right? And then vice versa. The first team defense is going to face up versus the second team offense and force the second team offense to step it up a notch. And we saw a lot of things take place. A lot of people get humbled because of those matchups. But it's ultimately the best thing to help you get better, right? You want to go up against the best of the best and find ways to get around their skill sets and become more efficient, which ultimately makes you a better second team player. And I like the way they're doing things. It seems very clean and very organized and very well thought out. Of course, at the end of the day, you're still going to see the starters square off, which stuff like this is going to end up happening, and it's good football for fans and spectators. But the way they go about it does feel pretty intense and pretty enticing as a spectator. But these matchups do lead off to some awesome things like this photo right here. Asante Samuel. he had an awesome day. He had an awesome day. He picked off Easton Stick on his very first pass, I think is what I was reading, which is pretty great, man, because we're going to need to lean on this guy. Asante, he's going to be cornerback 1 for this team. And to see him very first day putting in the work, finding the success, brings a lot of relief to me as a fan who needs to see something on defense in terms of DB and cornerback play right away. Asante looks great. He logged multiple pass breakups, and he led the defense in terms of interceptions and starting like a feast against Easton Stick, right? After that, everybody started going ham on Easton Stick. I know Christian Fulton got an interception. AJ Finley got an interception. ASJ, who am I missing? Troy Dye also got an interception, the new special team linebacker. Like, everybody was going ham. And it kind of felt like Asante's energy was spread throughout the defense, and it led to kind of a landslide, unfortunately for Easton Stick. But hey, man, you got to get better. You know what I mean? You got to find a way to clean all that kind of stuff up. Great, for Chargers first team defense to get out there and make plays when available. I think he almost intercepted Justin Herbert a little bit later too, mind you, which is kind of exciting in Asante Samuel. But a very good day for him. So Asante Samuel, he gives us a little bit of relief of what we have at cornerback 1. And it does make us wonder what's happening outside of that, right? Cornerback 2 is going to be an interesting battle to witness throughout the season. I'm going to be doing my my camp battles video here very soon as we start to see, in person and in OTAs, who's kind of squaring off with who and what's becoming more of a constant. It'll become more of a thing as we get through a majority of OTAs, right? But what's very evident right now is the cornerback battle. Right now, you're looking at a couple of guys competing for reps on the outside. We don't have Michael Davis anymore, right? Vato has moved on. I think he's with the Washington Commanders. We need another outside guy, and the Chargers tend to lean towards guys that are tall and fast, right? Right now, we got 2 guys competing for that spot in Cam Hart, the new acquisition via the draft, and Dean Leonard, right, who's been honestly looking pretty good the past couple of seasons. He stepped up as a special teams player, especially, and he's had some good looks on defense at cornerback. I think both of these guys are going to give the Chargers a couple of quality options to look forward to in terms of who's going to be playing on the outside. I think Cam Hart, to me, honestly, kind of has a little bit of an edge. I think that his height, his stature, his speed, and his potential, especially, being a recent draftee, gives him a little bit of power there. But you never know what's going to happen. So that's going to be one to closely monitor. And both those guys should be pretty serviceable on the outside, given their traits. Okay. As for edge, a couple of different things in this segment. Bosa and Mack lead the pack. Now, the D-line, it featured several different looks that we expected. Okay, this is something that versatility is going to create a lot of opportunity here. We saw, Bosa, Mack, Tooley, Fox, Puna. I mean, who were the guys in the interior? It was Puna, Fox, and Tito rotating in a lot. There was Tooley, Mack. All those rotations that we expected to see, we did see. We saw that there. And it's awesome. Like I talked about, in the top of the video, in terms of pass rush being a strength of this team, we're seeing what they kind of want to do with that, even without Bud Dupree out here yet. And I'm interested to see how that goes down when Bud gets here. But these guys being at OTAs was already super important. Seeing them perform was also very exciting. And honestly, it's something that is going to help, this team as a whole. Mack is considered to be a very big leader in the locker room and on defense, right? Joey Bosa, he tends to like to spend the offseason, I think, with his brother. Is it in San Fran or is it somewhere? I think it's in Florida, right? I don't remember. Him being there is also kind of a big deal. So these veteran guys coming in here is a pretty big deal in terms of leadership and locker room energy. But being able to see the different looks at edge is also very exciting. And I can't wait to see what it looks like with Bud in the mix as well. All right. Last couple of things to close out the video. Derwin James was out there moving around a lot. I think there's a battle right now, and this is a position I talked a lot about leading up into the draft, as to who's going to take that spot. It's safety, the third safety, right? The third safety on the roster. Who's going to be patrolling up top while Derwin James is moving around? We saw, I think, JT Woods and AJ Finley. Both of those guys were kind of rotating in and out of that Derwin position when he was moving around. But the fact that we saw Derwin moving around this much does get me excited. Because as we talked about with Jesse Minter unlocking things for, the edge position a lot, that's what we mainly talk about, and linebacker, Derwin James needs to be lumped in there heavily. Like, he's probably going to be the biggest beneficiary of this new defense. and the way that they like to use versatile players, because this is like the versatile king player in the NFL. This guy rocks wherever you put him. And this early in OTAs, to see him roaming around pretty much everywhere does instill a lot of faith in me that they're going to be using him the right way. All right. The last thing I wanted to note here, a couple of last things before we move into a couple of things that we just need to mention. The Chargers have a huge emphasis on conditioning that I don't know if we've seen this before. It was mentioned by a couple of reporters that they're like, hey, man, this is different than what we've seen in years past. It's different than what we've seen with other players and other teams. Conditioning is a very big part of this team. And it's something that the players attacked with enthusiasm, that Jim Harbaugh led with enthusiasm. Most importantly, Ben Herbert led with enthusiasm. A motivated Ben Herbert led the team on a final push to end practice with the intention of keeping the men healthy and reach peak physical shape. Conditioning. Like I said, this will help reduce injury risk. This will help reduce fatigue. It'll help bring you into football shape a lot quicker. And it's something that, again, I am enjoying as a fan seeing emphasized. We often talk about change. We often talk about, for years as Chargers fans, firing the strength and conditioning coach, the guys responsible for keeping the guys healthy, to instill a better confidence in us as fans to keep the team on their feet and on the field. We're seeing the work being done in the transition already. Like Ben Herbert coming into the fold and taking control of that, and his expertise and his reputation being as good as it is. We're already seeing that in OTAs. And this is one of the routines that's going to help keep the Chargers on the field. We're trying to break curses here. And that's a big one that we're going to try and tackle. I don't know how, successful we'll be. I'm hoping for the best, but this is a really good way to get confidence in me as a fan that we're moving in the right direction. Because in the past, and I think it was even mentioned in one of the reports, this has been more of a loose activity, right? It feels more mandatory at this point. It feels more enthusiastic to be executed at this point, okay? Last couple bits of news before we close it out. Junior Colson, unfortunately, things like this will happen. Right now, we don't know the extent of it, but he did exit practice around 30, 40 minutes into drills and stuff like that. He did exit practice with what we can assume was an injury, but he walked off on his own. We don't know the extent of it right now. I'm going to remain optimistic for now and just feel like, okay, maybe it wasn't anything too crazy. Otherwise, we might have heard about it by now. But Junior Colson, got to monitor him. Would love to see him more involved in OTAs, because the more involvement that he has, the more opportunity that he has to maybe get a green dot in his rookie season, which would be pretty insane. Last thing to note, Quentin Johnson out there. I did tweet yesterday, that the redemption arc is in motion. It is. But the first image that I saw of Quentin Johnson was bringing in a pass from Justin Herbert that seemed a little bobbled. Okay. And I did post that it is the Quentin Johnson redemption arc, but it all starts somewhere, right? Quentin Johnston, he still has work to do, evidently. From that one image or from that one video, I was like, okay, so at least we're getting some work in. And then I saw another video shortly after that of him doing hand drills, right? Where you stand in one place and you got the two, pitching machines on each side, and he just catch. And he looked pretty good there. He really did. So he's putting in the work, y'all. He really is. Chargers coaching is saying that he's there early. He's leaving late. He's putting in the work. He's got to work on that tremendously, but he's working on it. And that's something that I'm hoping we see progress through the season. We need to see a lot of improvement between the first clip that I saw and even training camp. All right. So that's going to do it, man. Training camp, I should say OTA, off to a really good start. We have more to cover in the next couple of days, but it should be very exciting to think about what this team is doing, the culture that is starting to be built already, and the potential that this Jim Harbaugh team has as early as OTAs, as early as training camp, as early as the preseason. It's all starting to come together. And as fans, again, I'm kind of taking in every minute of it. It's just something, I think this is a very special offseason. We are witnessing change. We are witnessing a shift. We are witnessing the Chargers making that turn from what we have been for decades into what we're going to be as competitors for the next several seasons. So get excited, Chargers fans. Very excited to see what's unfolding here. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Let's get out there, Jim. I like it. Tuck your shirt in.